We've been talking all week about words' values, how much a word is valued. And the word that we're going to talk about today is perfect. And I'm going to start with the question, can anything be perfect? Tom Brush is going to share his views on perfect, the word and the idea. And then I'm going to ask him more questions about it. And we're going to create the perfect episode of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning. How are you, Bob?
I'm good. A little perky. Tweak the intro a little bit for you just to make it fun.
Excellent. I always like a little surprise.
Was it perfect?
I don't know. That's up to you to decide.
Okay, we're going to find out today in this episode of Today's Antidote.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome, as Bob said, to this episode of Today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. All week long, we have a discussion. This week's discussion is about a word's value. And today we're going to talk about, as Bob mentioned, the word perfect and the value that that has in our lives. So as we go through that conversation, if you have thoughts or ideas that you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments of whatever social media you happen to be following us, whether it is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
We would love to see it because we know that that'll add value to our conversation. And at the end of our show, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote, to help you move forward, maybe today or maybe some other time in the future, as you are struggling with or challenged by and something that you are looking to figure out how to take that next step. So as well, you can share your one thing if you'd like at the end of the show. We start each show, though, with our celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I am celebrating that. What episode is this for us, Tom?
583.
Okay, I haven't looked at the number of episodes in a long time. I'm celebrating the fact that you and I have been doing this for now, 2 years and a couple months?
Yes.
I sometimes forget how valuable this is to me, just as a way to look at life and a way to look at just how things go. And so I want to thank you for that. I'm celebrating the fact that we continue to do this despite increasing complications, at least for me. I don't know about you.
We all have complications that we have to deal with, right? And then we make decisions based on what we prioritize.
That's right. We make time for the things that matter, right?
Absolutely.
And here we are at 7 a.m.
Yes, indeed. So today I am celebrating. What am I celebrating today?
You keep getting caught.
I know. You know what I'm going to celebrate is that I had a great conversation with one of our Renegade Success Network members.
Okay.
And I think it was helpful. And, again, as we talked a little bit about judgment, it's kind of been a theme running throughout our week. And, someone was sharing a little bit about, and not maybe the judgment, but the almost need for support and looking for reinforcement, almost wanting to have people evaluate and share about their performance or the things that they are doing or the value that they are sharing. And so that was a good conversation. And he made a comment in that conversation about something else that struck a note with me about something that I have been sitting on and need to move forward with. And so
what's that?
It's just some things we've been talking about within the Renegade Success Network. And It was a really good question to ask. And it made me remember something that I've been trying to prioritize and have forgotten. And so I'm going to celebrate the fact that we never know where our inspiration is going to come from.
Is it the networking event we keep talking about?
Yes.
I thought so.
That's
I could
part of
see
it.
it spinning around. How long have we talked about that? 6 months?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
What are we sharing with our renegades today?
Pick a page, any page.
Today's page number will be 67.
67. Do tell why.
1967, the year I was born.
Okay. Very, very self-centered on this thing.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah. All right. Most entrepreneurs have a pretty good idea of what they want to sell. After all, they've contemplated and debated endlessly in their heads what will or won't work. They've done mock presentations and pitches. They've retooled and reconsidered the words to use on a website. They also may have shared their great idea with others, seeking input, a gut check, or a dose of enthusiasm. That service or product they plan to make available to the public is as clear as day to them. They think they can put their finger on exactly what it is and how it will work. They see the problem clearly in their head, in their words, and in their thoughts. Sadly, their clarity in their own mind rarely translates to anyone else's mind, much less to the people it needs to appeal to if they're going to make a sale. What do you think about that?
I was trying to think, it started heading down a path where I was wondering if they were going to talk about that it had to be perfect, that the idea had to be crystal clear, and then it didn't head that way. So it was an interest. I mean, it was interesting. I think it is fascinating. I thought what was interesting was the idea that it never really meets with what others are looking for. And I wondered about that because I think at some point it does. It's just finding those people. I think that becomes the challenge.
Well, it's matching them up, right?
Correct. Right. Finding the people who, here's what the value you have that you want to offer. And the challenge is finding those people and making sure that they are aware and see the value, so that'll help help solve some challenge that they have.
Tom, we've got a check-in from Kelly Galvin Bates in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. She says, "Good morning, friends." Hey, good morning, Kelly. Great to have you here. Appreciate the feedback. Happy top of the morning to you.
Yes. All right. Shall we dive into our conversation today?
Let's.
The topic and the word of the day.
Let's.
So do you want to kick it off or do you want me to?
So I've said before, and I'll say again, I'm always trying to be perfect. That's one of my areas for improvement, I think, and I'm working on that because I don't think I can ever be perfect. But I also find more and more that I use the word perfect to describe situations. In fact, Tom, what I was telling you before the program, I specifically didn't use that word.
Okay.
Were it 2 weeks ago, I would have used that word.
Okay.
And I think we're all striving for perfect, but I think that's an unattainable goal. And that's real growth for me, just to be able to say that out loud. But I think where that manifests itself is what you've really helped me see is it's not about being perfect. It's about doing the best you can in the situation with what's real for you at that moment. Because you can't know everything. I can't know what's going to happen in this program in the next 12 minutes. Could very well be that the internet goes out. Could be that, Facebook goes down, that the platform we're using to broadcast this goes down. I have no idea. If any of those things happen, we're going to adapt to it the way we have to. And I can sort of think in advance, like, okay, if we lost our platform, what would we do? If this happened, what would we do? But I don't think there's a perfect answer to these things. And I think for so much of my life, I've been chasing perfection at my own peril. I think it's really kept me from, experiencing things fully, because it's like, well, that wasn't perfect. I've talked about speaking. There have been times where I've done speaking and I've left the stage and said, that was not perfect. Meanwhile, the organizer's coming back saying, hey, I'd love to have you come back next year. That was really amazing. That's one of the best presentations I've ever seen. Yes, my bar is different. Yes, my standard's different. But if I'm doing something for someone else and they set that bar for them, who am I to disagree? Right?
Well, they're finding value in it. And
Uh-huh.
I think that there's the difference between finding value and thinking that it is perfect. And it's interesting, I think you were talking about chasing perfection, which I think is actually a good thing. I think one of the challenges that you faced before is that you actually thought you could achieve it.
Okay. That's fair.
And I think that's for most of us. Isn't that what we want to do? We want to find a way to achieve perfection. And at the same time, if we ever achieve it, what's next? If you've discovered if you have experienced the perfect day,
Mm-hmm.
if you have created the perfect product, what's next? Like, if you ever had the perfect
Right.
day, why would you go on? You'd be like, if I can't have a day any better than this or any different than this, why keep going? If you ever gave the perfect presentation in your mind or someone else shared that with you, the challenge would likely be is that if you did everything exactly the same to a new audience, will you get the same response? And I think if you are expecting it and just expect that I don't need to change anything because the situation's exactly the same, I'm going to do exactly what I did before, and I'm going to get the exact same results because it was perfect. I think that's where we set ourselves up for significant surprise.
Yes.
Because
Um,
go on.
I'm sorry, I was going to jump in with a comment, Tom. Troy Tolley's with us as well. And he says there's nothing wrong with striving to be perfect. Perfection is not a destination, it's a journey. Love that.
Yes.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you for sharing that.
I think that's the challenge that we face, right? Is that thinking that we are going to achieve it. If you have the perfect steak, would you ever go anywhere else to eat?
No.
And so I think that's the challenge, and I think that it's the ideal out there and feeling like, well, once I achieve that, I've achieved it all. I don't need to do anything else. And that makes an assumption that every situation is exactly the same. And I think, as we've talked about before on the show, or at least I've shared, never is there a situation that is exactly the same. And so what we did before isn't necessarily going to produce the same results that we had previously. And when we expect that, we go in usually unprepared for what may happen. And then I think things become more challenging. And now you want to start to question yourself. Well, I did it last time and it was perfect. What went wrong? What mistake did I make?
Right.
I did everything the same.
Or what did that? They didn't do something. I've heard people say that, I did that sales call perfectly. It's their fault. They weren't ready to buy. They didn't understand our product. They didn't do their legwork. They didn't have a budget. All those things that if you were more sophisticated at, you'd be like, okay, they didn't have a budget. Let's talk about how they could develop a budget. Right?
Well, and I think perfect assumes control.
Don't be taking my words from next week.
I'm just think that those things go hand in hand, is that if we've done it perfectly, we know exactly what we need to do. Now we are in control and we do it again. And we might get similar results. Likely we're not going to get the same results. And which will have us walk away even more questioning, well, wait a minute, it was perfect. Why? And again, I think that's where it leads into judgment of others. I gave the perfect presentation. What is wrong with the rest? What is wrong with the audience? And I think that means that there's a right and a wrong, as we discussed Tuesday,
correct.
And I think that just becomes a judgment. And now you've stopped the opportunity for learning because you're just blaming it on the audience, let's say, and the audience doesn't understand. They don't get it. Yeah, they don't get it because they don't have your knowledge, experience, or perspective.
Right. I like that. Yeah, I would also add that we look for perfection when we're running teams. We're looking for our employees to be perfect. I've heard people say that a number of times to me that, I just want them to do this process perfectly. I want them to be able to do these things perfectly. And I think that's difficult to achieve for a team, especially if it's a situation where the leader is telling them exactly what to do, not really bringing their skill sets together. What do you think about that, Tom?
I would agree. I mean, I think I see it in teams, but I also see it in job searches, job hiring. We're looking for the perfect candidate. And if you ever looked at most job descriptions, they have so many things that that nobody ever has all of it.
No.
And yet the person hiring is expecting that. And so when someone comes in who may have maybe a really strong candidate, we may not see that because we are looking for, they need all of these things to be the perfect candidate. And if we don't have the perfect candidate, we'll just keep looking until we find it. And I think at the same time, people come in and say, this is the perfect candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wonder why they tend to sometimes struggle, as many people do with new roles.
Yes.
Or someone else who has a different perspective looks at them and says, yeah, I don't know why they see them as the perfect candidate. I see this, and this. So I think that's we're almost setting ourselves up by using that word, because likely it may appear to be perfect for us based again on our knowledge, experience, and perspective. Yet when we introduce someone, bring someone else in that we say is the perfect fit, likely there's other things that people are going to find that makes them not necessarily the perfect fit.
Right.
So in a lot of words, the word perfect to me sets up unrealistic expectations.
I was getting ready to say, I think the word perfect sets up the huge possibility of imperfection.
Yes.
You're trying to be perfect, but as a result, you're focused on what you're not perfect at, which tends to be where people get stuck, where they get overwhelmed. Because I can't do this thing. I can't figure this thing out. I don't know what to do in this situation, because they're comparing it to perfect. And I know there have been times when I've compared myself to other people, and they apparently are doing perfectly at what they do for a living, and I apparently don't. And I don't know what they go through. They don't know what I go through. I know you pretty well, Tom, and I'm not sure I fully understand what you go through in a typical day. And I'm not sure you understand what I go through in a perfect day. Yet we've talked well, you might understand more than most because you've heard a lot of it. But, we make these assumptions about people that, everything worked out perfectly for them. And I think that can also set us up for trouble, because no one's life is perfect. Just isn't.
Well, and we see what we want to see.
Right.
You might see
what we don't want to see.
Well, you see somebody, it's interesting. I was having this conversation yesterday a little bit, is that we see someone who makes a lot of money. And we see that because of the things, the house they have, the car they drive, the vacations that they take. And we think that seems like the perfect life. Maybe not everybody, but some people would look at that and say, wow, that seems like the perfect life, when we don't know all the other things that go on behind the scenes. And others would look at, somebody maybe who has a lot of money, but they have no time, looks at someone who's able to go watch their kids do all their school activities and say, wow, isn't that perfect? I wish that I was able to do that. And I think we we actually just don't understand, as you mentioned, all the things that are going on and the challenges that they face. We see the image that we want to see, or that they want us to see, and they portray in one way. That doesn't mean we have all an understanding of what they have going on.
Yeah. So what's your one thing today, Tom?
Oh, my one thing around perfect is I think that perfect sets it, the idea, the use of the word perfect sets up the opportunity easily for frustration and getting stuck. Because it gives us an expectation, and then when we realize that that expectation isn't met or it changes, you know, you go and have the perfect dinner one night and you go and have the next, well, this is the perfect dinner. Well, all right, well, which is it? And now you're confused. I think that that's anytime we set up expectations like that, or we judge something in that way, we are setting ourselves up for future challenges.
Yeah, I would agree. I think my thought on the word perfect is that the more you use that word or the more you ask people, hey, was that perfect? The more distance you're going to get from what you're ultimately trying to achieve, which is really coming a long way for me in a short time.
Well, and you might then stop trying to grow.
Yes.
Once you've done it.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
Well, this was another great discussion, Tom.
Well, it's an interesting word, and I think that we're more aligned with this maybe than we had been in the others. I will share. It's interesting. Do you know what you did twice during the show?
Did I use the word perfect?
No. Well, you did.
Did I run my finger through my hair?
No.
Did I say better?
No.
I used butt.
Yes. Which is just, because I'm aware of that. And I hear it, and you had talked about that is a word that you use a lot.
And so come back, folks, tomorrow for our episode. It's Discoveries of the Week, my favorite episode, and we're going to see how many times I can use the word "but" in the episode. My goal is to go through a whole week in the next month with no buts.
With one T.
No comment. Oh, wait, we have another comment, Tom. Can you bring that up while I figure out from whom it came?
Sure. Striving for perfection will produce in my life purpose, and a purposeful life will ultimately produce perfection. Great dialogue, gentlemen. I appreciate these many episodes as you guys continue to put out valuable content every day. Keep up the great work.
That's from Troy Tolley. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks, Troy.
You made my day.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
And appreciate your comments and feedback as well.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of our show today. If you have your one thing, obviously, please feel free to share it. If you're finding these conversations interesting, join us in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where we will continue the conversation about a word's value. We'll be talking about that all week. And as Bob mentioned, tomorrow, our show is about Discoveries of the Week, which is, I think, always a fascinating wrap-up of the conversations we had. And there is always a post inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group for you to share your discoveries of the week. That could be around a word's value. You could share a word that you try not to use or you don't find as valuable as others may. Or it could be about something completely different, because we know that there is a lot going on besides our conversations, and there are discoveries being made all the time. And discoveries that you make will likely add value to others, which ultimately is helping everyone figure out how to take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, again, 7 a.m. in this early week edition of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and stop being perfect or trying to be perfect.
It's okay to try to be perfect.
Yeah, no, you don't want to try. I try to be perfect, and then I get very disappointed.
Well, if you're striving for perfection, then you're always taking that next step. So that's sort of trying.
Don't be upset if you're not perfect.
How about try to be perfect, understanding that it will not be achieved?
Okay. That works.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. We will see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.